A lot of Etsy sellers come to me and say, Kate, I've been told Pinterest will drive traffic to my shop, but I don't see it happening. And I get it. Pinterest feels slow, like very slow. It feels like you are pinning out into a void. But here's what most people get wrong. They're trying to compete with Etsy's own search traffic. And sometimes we don't want to compete with Etsy. We want to leverage Pinterest instead. Pinterest is the library and Etsy is the marketplace. When someone is on Pinterest, they're browsing and dreaming, not necessarily buying yet. Your job is to meet them there, inspire them, and lead them right to your listing. In this interview with my friend Tara, we're going to talk about just that: how to get the right image to the right URL, finding the right keywords, and what Pinterest actually responds to, and how to set that up. It is such a fun episode. I know you're going to be inspired, and this is especially important for somebody who is thinking about getting into Etsy, doesn't necessarily know the pathway. You're going to have a pathway by the end of this interview. So let's dive in. And if you need more support and help, we didn't talk about this in the episode, make sure that you join our SPM Insiders community for just $9 a month, where Tara actually is a part of that community. So you can ask her questions and you can ask me questions as well. Okay, now let's dive in. Tara, welcome back to the Simple Pin podcast.
It's so nice to see you. It has been years.
I know it has been. And we crossed paths at the Mediavine conference in Austin in 2018 or something like
Right?
that.
It was in the before times.
In the before times, totally. And I think one of the unique perspectives that you bring to the table is having so much experience in different parts of businesses and different understanding of all these worlds, but yet you push yourself to keep embracing the new. And I appreciate that about you, because it helps so many people who are coming into quote unquote the after times, and they're trying to figure out, like, is this the place for me? And that's kind of how this got started, as we were exploring, okay, Pinterest and like products seem to be going together like PB&J more and more. And those people who are new are saying, I want to sell something. I'm very familiar with Etsy. It's been around for years. Is this the platform for me? And so you and I were talking, and it's like, let's do a podcast about this and talk about where you're at, which is kind of like beginning, experimenting, playing around with what it's going to look like. And even before we hopped on this call, it's asking those questions about, does this work? Does it not work? And so I very much want the listener to go into this with this understanding of, we're going to give you some ideas. We want to get the spark going. We want you to be thinking about how Etsy and Pinterest can work for you and your business, but also knowing, like, iterations of marketing and platforms are moving at lightning speed right now. So take the basics of what we're talking about to listen to you and your experiment, and then kind of just make a plan to go from there. And so if you're good with that, I'm going to dive into the mindset of Etsy, because I think it's important to connect this Pinterest mindset. And so talk a little bit about that, how you even approach it, and thinking, I'm going to say this first. I'm classic, do this on podcasts. There is this mythical idea that you're going to make a ton of money just by selling a bunch of stuff on Etsy, right? Like overnight, you're going to be this instant success. We've seen this on YouTube, like the thumbnails are crazy. So I want to talk about, like, how do you approach something with kind of this, could I make a lot of money? Maybe I'll make money. Maybe it'll be amazing. Back to the original question. Talk about your mindset as you approach Etsy.
So last year was shocking. In March, I noticed that I was not making enough money to pay my payroll to me. And I was like, oh my goodness, the ad revenue was down. Now come to find out, it did the same thing this year. So I think it's just seasonal, but it freaked me out. And I was like, I need another stream of income that's not just ads from my website. And I'm like, what could I do? What could I do? And I make art. So before I had my artsy fartsy life shop set up to do collage art, I'm like, I already have it set up, might as well. And then I started doing art for products, which is surface design. Nobody knows what the name of it is, but I'm selling digital files.
Okay.
And you can sell 4 types of things on Etsy. You can sell digital files, you can sell handmade, obviously, crafts, and then vintage. And for years, I had a little vintage shop where I would go and do auctions, buy things, ship them, and send them out. And it was amazing. Like the profit margins on that is great. Not as good as digital, but really good. And so I knew how to do an Etsy shop. I've had a successful digital one that my friend operates now, and then a vintage one. And I was like, well, why not try it again? We're starting from almost a dead stop. I did have some sales. So I have some sales, I have some reviews, and I think I have 30 sales, which is in the land of Etsy, nothing, right? You want to get to a number of things. Now, what my goal is and how I did it the last time was I wasn't trying to get into Etsy search. I'm not trying to do Etsy SEO. Nominally, I am. I do a little research, but I'm not trying to compete on Etsy. I'm really good at Pinterest. So that's what I'm doing is I'm focusing all my efforts on Pinterest itself, knowing that it's going to take 6 to 9 months before my Pinterest pins start working. It really takes 6 to 9 months for Etsy SEO to work. In my life, everything I do takes 6 to 9 months to start working. That's just how long it takes them to figure out what you're doing, for you to have enough products up for them to classify your shop as something, for you to gain followers. They're called favorites on Etsy, for you to get views, for them to start to see who's actually doing it. And then doing a podcast is the exact opposite of what you should do, because I'm going to be dumping a bunch of your people in who aren't my buyers. Right. And if I was doing it on Etsy, I wouldn't probably have a podcast with you, because then it would mess up my conversion rate. But because I'm focusing on Pinterest, doesn't matter. I'm going to drive the majority of the traffic to my store. Now, one little thought that did come to me, I know how to do Shopify too. Okay. Right? Like Shopify is lovely. It's easy to use. And I do think it integrates with Pinterest better. Yeah. Like you get the whole feed. But for me, this is a side hustle. This is not a big part of my business. This is, can I make $25,000 next year selling digital products? I'd be happy with 10. It all helps go into the pot. So I'm not doing the make $100,000 a year in 13 minutes and you can do all that. And the additional nice thing is both Pinterest and Etsy are going to sit there churning away for me for however long. It's like 20 cents a listing for 4 months.
Right. Well, and I want to camp on this because I think this is really important. Do you find that a lot of people tend to gravitate towards competing in the Etsy game instead of how you're turning it on its side and going, I'm going to compete in the Pinterest game to fuel the Etsy sales and not compete over here? Are a lot of people not thinking about it in that way? They're like, I'm going to optimize for Etsy first and then Pinterest second.
I'm not sure that most Etsy sellers are even thinking about Pinterest. Like they're all in on Etsy. There's some, like I've seen some gals do things, but overall, I see they're like all in on the Etsy game, especially the newer people. Now, it's hilarious. I have 2 pictures. I should put them on that little page I made for you. Yeah. When I started my shop, I had this thought of how I wanted the pictures to look, and I made it. My bestie is like an Etsy hero. She does print on demand. And she's like, they're nice. They're great. Yeah, go ahead and start. And I started, and then once I see them all together, I'm like, this looks terrible. This looks really horrible. And so then all I had to do was go change the front ones on them. But by then I had like 20, 25 listings. Had I waited until I had everything perfect, I wouldn't have started. There wouldn't be pins out there. It's very easy to get hung up on the mechanism of starting an Etsy shop and not so much on how am I going to get people to come see my stuff.
Yes, 100%. And there's that phrase like the perfect is the enemy of good, right? And you just have to start. And I say that a lot to people with creating Pinterest images. It's like your first ones are going to be terrible. Just create them, see them all lined up, and then make changes. And then you can get feedback from other people. But if you never start, you can never see what you're going to change. So that's a really important thing that people need to take into consideration. So, this new person, let's say they're going to start with Pinterest, but they're going to be on Etsy. You talked a little bit about in our notes milestones and how you're kind of setting your goals. Share a little bit more about that.
So the first milestone to really get going on Etsy, for Etsy to even notice you or know that you exist, is probably 100 listings, right? And you can have up to 20 pins on your each listing. So I'm making Pinterest pins, and we're going to talk a little bit later about how that would even make sense to do 20 different pins for one listing. But because there's no cost to me, I have the templates set up. I have little mock-ups set up. I have, lifestyle pictures. You're going to want to learn about that. We're not talking about that today. But the time to do that is so minimal, and that gets me more pins out there. And I see all the time in the groups, people are like, how do you do 5 pins a day? Well, you do one today and then schedule one for next week and the week after that and the week after that and the week after that. And next week you'll have 2 that day. And the next week you'll have 3 that day, right? You don't do it by dumping 5 of the same product pin at the same time.
Yeah.
And I know you love Tailwind. I love Tailwind. That's what I'm using for scheduling. And I know it's Pinterest approved. And so that I'm not the kind of person that will look at my calendar, go into it, which pin we were talking. I don't have a spreadsheet.
We're not your spreadsheet people.
No. But that way, I mean, I have pins scheduled out for these like a year or 2, because I do the first month or so, like 4, the original one and a few more. And then I go to every couple of weeks, and then I go to every week, and it's going to be little, I always call it fishing. You're throwing in your line, and you got to just wait for it till you're spreading your little breadcrumbs all over the internet. And some of those are going to hit later when, say, a trend turns. Say Pinterest predicts comes out. This year wasn't the year for, Danish style flowers. But next year, they're like, do the Norwegian thing.
Yeah.
And there's all my pins sitting there ready to go. So that's the kind of thing you want to think about when you get going, is don't go for perfect. And your friends are going to say, that looks great. Looks great. And then they're going to come back and go, that's not great.
You should make some tweaks. Yeah. Totally. And you know what I think is also important to remember in that question that you kind of raised about how many pins per day or 20 per listing, what people do get caught up in is this very technical, rigid structure. And that usually comes associated with, am I going to get marked as spam? And what we tell people is that if you are not a spammer, 1, great job, right? 2, if you're also putting out a variety of pins that lead to different listings, win number 2. And then win number 3 is your variety is there for your user. You're not doing the same pin over and over and over again. So there's always this worry of like, what hole am I going to step in? Pull yourself back from that and go, how can I actually serve the person who's looking for my particular product, and making sure I show up in front of them? That's where we want your mindset to be, because then that's when you create better images, you choose better keywords, and the mental energy is focused more on that than this getting marked as spam. And it's very rare if you do get marked as spam. It's usually an accident. It's probably an engineering thing, and you can get unmarked pretty quickly. But if you're the 50 to 80 times a day of the same pin, well, you stepped in that trap yourself.
Well, but that's why you're running towards 100 listings, because that gives you the broad ability to have different pins. The next level is 500. I think I'm at 100. I'm like, I'm at 100. Okay. Shoot, my next one is 500. Dang
Totally.
it. And then the last one is 1,000. It depends on what you're selling.
Yeah.
Right? If you're selling handcrafted items, if I were selling hand painted oil paintings that all take 3 weeks to paint, what I would do in that case is I would scan them and sell prints too.
Yeah.
Right? And so those would be two different listings and two different buyers. Somebody who wants to buy original art is a different buyer than somebody who wants to buy a print of an art and maybe put it on a card, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then sell them as cards. So there's always ways, even if you are a handmade seller, there's always ways to look at it. Could you do a bundle, right? If you're a handmade seller, could you make a bundle of your stuff? If you're a one of a kind seller, that's the hardest one because one of a kinds, when I was selling vintage, it's really hard because I would buy a lot of pencil sharpeners and sell 5 pencil sharpeners and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Right.
And then if you had a pin out there, it's really hard because you can't leverage Pinterest for a listing that's going to be gone once
It's
sold.
going to go to that same type of product, not to your shop because you don't have anything. Like the user intent of that person is, I want a pencil sharpener. If I don't have any pencil sharpeners, then they're going to go to the next vintage seller that would have a pencil sharpener. Right.
Yeah.
So in that case, a lot of times when I was doing my one of a kind sort of thing, I would direct them towards the category URL rather than to an individual listing when I could. Especially if it was like that would be vintage office products.
Right.
Right. So then their user intent, I hope, is right. I hope there's some pencil sharpeners because I source them all the time. But if they got there, they would not be like looking at vintage bookends, right? The same intent would be there.
Right. And that brings us kind of to this technical pieces of how Pinterest and Etsy connect. And I think one of the important things to note is that there's some connections we can see and there's some connections we can't see. And the most important thing is that the user, which we were talking about before, you can see the product, you can see the listing, and you can see the price on almost all of the Etsy listings, which makes it super helpful because when you are in Pinterest and you're considering buying, we think of those business to consumer purchases, the regular Pinterest users, they're much more likely to make a purchase if it's between like $9 and $27. There's not a lot of thinking that goes into it, but kind of this over $30 threshold, you're gonna like, oh, I don't know. And so seeing the price helps quantify it for them super quick. They've seen the image, they've seen the listing. They can make a quick decision either to save or they can go directly to the listing. So let's talk about that because you brought up category pages and then direct to listing. So tell me more about these technical connections.
Okay, so when you were just saying that, the first thing I want to talk about is how Etsy works and how you get better rankings in Etsy search, and then how you get listed as like a bestseller in a category. And so it's based on your number of views. So with Pinterest, you can help increase your own views, right? You're driving the views. Then it's based on favorites. If somebody has favorited that item and said, I want to save it for later. And then it's based on sales, right? Now we also have that extra layer of they've viewed it in Pinterest. And if they've saved it in Pinterest, we have another breadcrumb out there that they may go through when they're ready to buy something, and you may not see that click through to your item for a while. That's part of the 6 to 9 months. We know that people make boards of their bathroom remodel and they're going to buy your tiles, but they're going to do it in 6 months, not today, right? So that's super important. Now, the thing about Etsy is if you have a listing that you can use over and over again. So when you go to your Etsy listing in the top right, there's a share and save link. It'll say copy link and it's a different link. You get a tiny percentage of your money back and it credits you with that you brought the traffic rather than, so you brought the traffic from Pinterest. So if you're doing Tailwind, click through to Tailwind, save all your little pins on Tailwind or on Pinterest, and then go grab that share and save link and put it there.
Oh, smart.
Right.
Okay.
That way you can do that. Now, if you need to, so my favorite thing is, what are the best pins on Pinterest? Roundup pins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
you're like, how am I going to do a Roundup pin?
Yep.
So super easy. We have 20 categories we can use for Etsy. And what that means is you can have, like, I have holidays, I have coquette, I have flowers, floral, right? And so what you can do is think about it as, like the top 10 dainty gold necklaces for that your mother will love on Mother's Day. And then you just send them to that category, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's another little tip. You can don't delete your category, change the name of it, and try to keep them nominally the same.
Okay.
If you delete the category, you break all those Pinterest pins. If you
Mm.
just change the name of the category and you can keep the user intent going as close as you can, right? Nobody's going to be mad if I do coquette or girly. Those are, if Pinterest decides next month or next week that girly's better than coquette, mob boss and glamorosy or whatever the thing were, those are the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens, so technical, what happens is just like your listings, you'll see on your listing, it says etsy.com/something/listing number. So that listing number is what Etsy uses. You can take away the name after the end. It's why you can change your SEO every day if you want, and it doesn't matter. It stops at that listing number. The categories do the same thing. So once you've assigned that category number to it, as long as you don't delete it and start a new category, your pins won't ever get broken. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
It does. So to recap, it's like they can do individual pins that go straight to listings. But if they're going to take and do collage pins, because those are super popular right now, and
Yes.
they give the user options to buy those dainty necklaces, we go straight to that category and then they can see all 10 listings right away, increasing the opportunity for the purchases and increasing your pins opportunity, because that's a big thing we know about Pinterest is that it's not just one pin and done. You can have multiple pins going to multiple destinations, and Etsy opens up a lot of ability with this when you have the listing and you have the categories. And then you can mess with the name, you just can't mess with the listing number.
Well, let's talk about that and how when I say I make 20 pins, right?
Yep.
That sounds ridiculous. So,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it does.
Because if I say floral Danish flower pattern over and over and over again, then I'm not getting anywhere. I might get a little titch if I'm putting them on different name boards. But what I do is I use AI and I ask it, what angles can I use? Right? So
Mm-hmm.
I have these really cute candy jars that I made that are pink and white, that are a pattern. They're like you would put on wrapping paper.
Okay.
Right? So I have the exact name on Etsy. You want to name it the correct way. It's a surface pattern. It's a surface design. It's this, that, and the other thing. For my pins, what I can do is I can have candy jar surface pattern. I can also have Valentine's Day and send that out seasonally. I can also have it be coquette, right? I can have it go to foodie. I could say kitchen patterns. I could say bakery patterns. And what you're doing is you're not just making this, and each pin will have different verbiage on the pin, the words to say, this is what, these are for kitchen fabrics.
Mm-hmm.
These are for, like restaurant or bakery packaging.
Okay.
Things like that. And so it is harder because you're having to look at your item and say, what kind of angles could this be for? As far as aesthetics, is it dark academia? Is it coquette? Is it mob boss? Is it whatever? Those are amazing. And I'll put that. I have a really good, super long blog post about all the aesthetics. I'll put it on that reference page. So going back to jewelry, is it dainty? Is it gold? Is it silver? Is it like, think of a million adjectives and then use those in your different pins.
Yes, that is key on Pinterest because people are very specific. And what we know about Pinterest users too is that when they are specific, it's because they don't necessarily have it already in their head. It's like they'll know it when they see it. And so when they see your image and it's associated with dainty, they go, oh, yes, that's what I was thinking of. And it increases your chances of purchasing. So don't forget the adjectives. Like they are so important, especially as we look at trends, as we look at Pinterest predicts. A lot of it is in there around these extra elevated lifts to keywords. So one of the things you brought up was, this idea of finding those keywords, like the end of Pinterest. And our good friend Lena Gott taught this ages ago, and it's always stuck with me too. So talk a little bit about finding those keywords at the end of Pinterest, quote unquote.
I just have in my, anytime I'm using the little bubbles to do research, I'm like, I'm going to the end of Pinterest. And so the way that you do it is, say you're doing gold necklaces. So you would type in necklace into the search, and then the bubbles are going to come up at the top. And then if you're trying to decide, I use it for product development too. Like
that's a good idea.
I want to know what Pinterest is pushing people towards by using the bubbles as much as I want to know how to SEO Pinterest. But so say you have gold and it says gold, and then it says butterfly, and then it says dainty, and then it says for girls or for women, and then it doesn't say anything else. It used to all come up in the search bar. It doesn't. You kind of have to jot it down. But that's the end of Pinterest. And the more you can get to the end of the search bubbles, that's the granularity that people are talking about, where you have now gotten that pin to a point, the title, the description, the words on the pin. If you're, for products, you can have some pins with no words, right?
Yeah, totally.
For me, I have product example for POD, for digital products, for things like that. You're going to want to put very plainly product example so that they know it's a mock-up. But you can also have, the Toby pins, the text over background image.
Oh, yes. It's kind of like grayed out.
Right. Or it's grayed out, or it's the middle bar, like the foodie pins. And then you want to try those. So this is why this is an experiment, right? I know how to make blog post pins. I need to learn how to make pins that are going to resonate with people who are purchasing patterns on Pinterest for their business. I don't have a background in that. So that's why I have to do the research, try all different kinds of pins, all different kinds of keywords, and then figure out where it works. And then it's really funny because you could go into Etsy and then see what listings Pinterest has driven traffic to. If you're really good, I bet you the spreadsheet ladies could figure out which pins did it.
Totally.
But I know that some of my coquette products, my coquette patterns, are showing up. Now, they were also the first ones I listed. So is it that those are good, or is it just I listed those 2 months ago and we're not even close to the end of when they're going to be doing it? And because you're list every day.
Okay.
If you can list every day. I am a big I call them death marches, where I love to, I'm moving. So I'm like, I will work 2 hours a day for the next, on Etsy, that doesn't work and on Pinterest, it doesn't work as well. You don't want to dump 5 listings a day onto Etsy or onto Pinterest unless you're going to dump 5 listings every day going forward. And I would still do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, right? Move them up.
Scale up.
But Etsy appreciates much more consistency. And I know Pinterest appreciates consistency, more than they want you to dump 30 listings and then go away for a month and then dump 30 listings.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I'm going to kind of summarize it. You make sure I have it. So for the person who's like, yes, I'm all in on Etsy, but I feel slightly overwhelmed, let's kind of like give them a pathway and then what's possible. So I would say focus on optimizing for Pinterest, not Etsy. You're going to not play the Etsy game. You're going to play the Pinterest game. You're going to have your mindset set on this whole 6 to 9 months. And you're also going to start creating images. They're not going to be the best, but you're going to do it anyway. You're going to lead it to your actual product page. You're going to, when you have categories, after you've done that listing per day, you can then link it to categories. And then you're going to start to get creative with your keywords. You can get generic at first. You can just, you're feeling your way through in those beginning pins, but then you're going to get more specific and you're going to search, you're going to use adjectives and really starting to understand your customer, connecting with them and thinking about what they're searching. So let's assume this person is like, okay, I'm in the groove. What do you think is actually realistically possible for them sales wise in that 6 to 9 months? Like, what's a good, like, not YouTube thumbnail like that they should aim for?
Well, I think if you make a sale in the first couple of months, and I have a post on the page that we're giving them,
Yeah.
why it's so hard to get started in your first 2 months of Etsy.
Okay.
And it's just because they don't know what your shop is about. Like
Yes.
there's just no way for them to, and because Pinterest isn't so fiscal mostly, right? They're just giving you lovely suggestions. They're not like trying to get you to spend your money. Where Etsy is a company where they really want to provide a good product from a reputable seller in the area that person is looking for, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot more on their end. I think once you get a sale, you'll get more sales. Like the biggest predictor of Etsy success is to have sales.
Okay.
You'll notice if you sell one thing, you'll sell more things, and then it'll go down again. And then you'll sell one thing and you'll sell more things. If you're a brand new Etsy seller, give it 2 months. And if you haven't made a sale, have somebody not in your household on your IP, or with your name or any connection to you, like your best friend, have them buy something and have them review it. Reviews are very important to Etsy, and that'll start getting the ball rolling. And just know that the more listings you have, the more chances you have for a sale, the more you can spread out, right? Like, so if I was going to sell vintage, I wouldn't do 5 pencil holders and then 5 door stops and then 5 books, right? I would do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, because you're trying to get Etsy to understand what the overall shop is.
Right.
Now, let's look at the other end on Pinterest. Maybe if you want to get started and you've thought through your Etsy shop, you could maybe make the same categories on Pinterest boards as you have on your Etsy shop, but you can be a lot more descriptive on your Pinterest boards than you can on your categories. So you're going to want to do that. And then a little trick is if you have, like for me, I have a flower pattern that's Danish modern, right? I could have it under floral, but I could make a copy of that listing and put it under spring too, or season or whatever. Wait 3 months, wait 4 months. You're not going to have 4 listings that you have listed 7 different ways. I might even wait until you get to 100 to duplicate a listing.
Yeah. And you've launched a printable shop before, correct?
Yes. I didn't make 25,000 in the first year, but my income daily was over the next year, I made $25,000.
Yeah. Yeah, which is great. I mean, $25,000 is life-changing for some people, like, especially when they didn't have it before. So I think that's what's great is that it is possible to actually make the good income, but knowing you're going to have to invest in this longer runway. And I think that is actually the hardest part for people because when they get to the month 2, they're like, "Is this working? Is this actually doing anything?" And what I keep hearing from you in this is keep going. Like you have to keep investing, keep planting. It's like another log on the fire. And then eventually you do have that fire. And what I love about that is that Pinterest and Etsy so closely mirror those patterns. It's not like you have something where TikTok is your rise to the top really quickly. That doesn't happen on Pinterest and it doesn't happen on Etsy. So going into this with very much a long-term mindset, like I'm going to give this a year and I'm going to see what like find after a year, if I'm making money, what I've learned, and if I want to keep doing it. I would say that's what I would tell anybody who, after listening to this, is thinking, okay, I'm going to try it. Would that align with what you would tell them?
Well, absolutely. And especially if you're doing printables, the cost of goods is it's 20 cents for 4 months, right?
Mm,
And then
mm-hmm.
I've seen a statistic. It's like 11% they take for the processing fees, or
Oh,
might be a
okay.
little bit more, might be a little bit less. But so that's pure profit,
Okay.
right? So if you're selling your art prints, if you're selling patterns like I am, if you're selling my store that I did that with, it's called Paperly People if anybody wants to go look at it. It sold business forms. And I just started the way that I got to 52 listings in 52 days.
Mm-hmm.
I have it on my site somewhere. But all I did was I scoured every single drive I had, my Google Drive, my hard drive, things I'd emailed to clients and things like that. And I just found every form that I ever had and started listing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it's not that easy to do it with physical products. It's kind of that easy to do it with print on demand, like every design you've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, if you want to do Etsy as a side hustle or even as your main thing, there's just so many different ways to go about it. If you love crafting, you can sell craft supplies, right?
Yeah.
If you love just making art and you don't want to do anything else, do print on demand, and they do all the product fulfillment for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So there's a million different ways to sell on Etsy that I'm huge on the Venn diagram, because when I was looking for that side hustle, I was like, what am I willing to do for a year with no results, possibly, and how can I sell that? And the easiest way was Etsy, because they have the whole thing. They have people there already. You're going to get some Etsy traffic. It's impossible not to. You couldn't say that you're never going to get Etsy traffic. And it's just so easy to use. And they do all of the tax reporting. They do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's just for a baby person who wants to start selling online, 100%.
Yeah, I'm actually even thinking of it for my daughter, who is an artist who loves to draw things. And what's interesting is she is a type 1 diabetic. And she purchases these little stickers for like her pump and also for her CGM. And Etsy is where she goes to first because she's really passionate about supporting artists. And I think with Gen Z kind of coming up in this very much wanting to thrift, wanting to get closer to the source of the person who's the creator, I could see Etsy also having a second resurgence of getting these new buyers that are coming onto the scene. So actually it's giving me ideas for her, like, hey, if you want to start this as a side hustle, just know it's going to take you 6 to 9 months, but if you set your goal at this, who knows what could happen. And yeah, sky's the limit, right? So
Well, think about that. Your daughter can make art, like printable art for stickers. It could be diabetic based art. And
yeah.
that's the thing, I think that people, it goes back to, I can understand it easier on Etsy than I can on Pinterest, the granularity of it.
Yep.
I can find a t-shirt for my husband that is exactly what I want. Like I could have his name on it. You know, this year I got a personalized t-shirt for him that had Emmy and Sky, and my favorite people call me Pappy. It
Oh,
didn't say Grandpa. There weren't generic, like they
yeah.
looked like they're. And so, especially on Etsy, people have gotten so used to being able to find exactly what
Yeah.
they want.
Yep.
And so
Mhm.
if you're doing this goes back to the product development, if you're finding out like at the end of the year or beginning of next year, once your shop is set up and you're ready to go, when you get that Pinterest trends like pickles, it's
Yeah.
hilarious. 2 years ago, pickles was one of
Yeah.
their trends and they came on up,
Yeah.
right?
This year it's cabbage.
Yeah. I have
Mhm.
not seen that do it, but
No, I haven't
God bless
either.
America.
Yeah, I
The
know.
pickles.
The pickles for sure. The pickle margarita, I think it was that came up. Tara, I have loved all this. It's been very inspiring for me. And I love people sharing stories when they are in this process of trying and testing, because so often we hear the end result, or we hear, like I talked about, the mythical, like you can make all these things. And that's
I
tough.
have I have a thing for you. So I have big old Pinterest accounts, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing Pinterest since I don't know if it was Pinterest when I started, right?
Right.
And so it's hilarious now. I can see, I'm like, wait a minute. Pinterest said they sent 6 people and Etsy said they sent 4 people. They don't, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. It's
Yes.
so funny when you're starting and how you can see the little tiny numbers and just
Yep.
look at it as those are great. Those are some people that are coming from Pinterest to Etsy to see your thing.
Yep. Yes. So true that you would not have engaged with before. And that's the beautiful part about Pinterest is that it's all new users. It's not those people who follow you on Instagram and kind of see everything over and over, which has its place. It's really good. But I'm looking for the new. And that's what we're all looking for these days, right? As the online eyeballs have shifted and changed so much, I think people are looking for the authentic more and more. They're like, I want a real person. I want a real artist. I don't want something that is AI or a fake person. So, how can I get closer to that? And I think we're finding these streams between Pinterest and Etsy are opening up a lot of great doors. So, you talked about a resource a couple of times. So, share a little bit about where people can go to get that and what they can find on that resource.
I'm going to look it up to make sure it's correct. It is marketingartfully.com. So marketing the pretty way, artfully.com/SPM for Simple Pin Media. I have a worksheet about everything that we talked about that you can do as check boxes. And then there's notes on there. So you don't have to be, we should have told them before.
Yeah.
You don't have to be frantically taking notes. There'll be a ton of information on there. I have a bunch of posts that could help you, like how to target high end buyers on Etsy, things like that. And then I do have a little course about how to make 20 pins fast.
Yep.
So that's a good one. If you're feeling overwhelmed that you have to make 20 pins, it does come with pin templates. It's for Canva. So that could be helpful. And then I am going to put that aesthetics link in there. It's free. And I think there's a printable for all the aesthetics like homey and farm
Mm,
core and cottage core. And those are the ones I think of,
all the core, grandpa core.
soft girl and all those. But those are really good because I'm a Gen X man. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this aesthetic thing is dumb. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Me and my bestie, we're like, okay, what does grunge say to you? And I'm like, oh, it's the cranberries, it's the big
Yeah.
jeans, it's the flannel shirt. Oh,
Yeah.
that's what
That's what they're
aesthetics
wearing.
is.
Yeah, my kids were listening to the Cranberries the other day. Yep. Mhm.
Of course they were.
Yeah. Yes. I love that. Thank you for that resource because I think it's so helpful for people who need a step-by-step guide and
Yeah.
wanting to get up and running. So we'll put that link below in the description too as well. Tara, thank you so, so much for sharing all of your wisdom. I always love talking with you. Thank you so much.
Yay. I'm so glad that we got to get together again.
I know, so great.